Hello everyone, today we step into one of the most chilling mysteries of the sea, a case that has haunted sailors, historians, and storytellers for more than a century. The tale of the Mary Celeste is not just about an abandoned ship drifting aimlessly across the Atlantic. It is a haunting puzzle of vanished lives, unanswered questions, and theories that stretch from the logical to the supernatural. In this story, we will travel back to the year 1872, when the crew of the Mary Celeste set out on a voyage that should have been routine, but instead turned into a legend of the unknown. The Mary Celeste was a brigantine vessel, sleek, sturdy, and considered a reliable merchant ship. She was launched in Nova Scotia, Canada, in 161 under the name Amazon, but after a series of unfortunate events including the death of her first captain and a collision, she was sold and refitted. Renamed Mary Celeste, the ship seemed destined for strange fate. In November 1872, under the command of Captain Benjamin Briggs, she departed New York City bound for Genoa, Italy. On board were the captain's wife, his 2-year-old daughter, and a crew of 7 experienced sailors. They carried a cargo of industrial alcohol, 701 barrels of it. The weather was fair, the ship was seaworthy, and nothing seemed amiss as she sailed into the open Atlantic. But less than a month later, on December 5th, another vessel, the Dei Gratia, spotted the Mary Celeste drifting aimlessly in the waters near the Azores Islands. The ship looked strange even from afar, her sails tattered, her course irregular, and no crew visible on deck. The captain of the Dei Gratia, David Morehouse, was an acquaintance of Captain Briggs, and he found it alarming that the ship appeared deserted. He ordered a boarding party to investigate. When the men climbed aboard the Mary Celeste, what they found has since become the stuff of legend. The ship was completely deserted. Not a single crew member remained, yet the vessel was not wrecked or heavily damaged. There was no sign of violence, no struggle, no blood, nothing to suggest foul play. The cargo was largely intact, except for a few empty barrels. The personal belongings of the crew and passengers were still in place. Clothes, valuables, even Captain Briggs' logbook, with the last entry dated 10 days earlier. The lifeboat, however, was missing. It appeared as though the crew had abandoned ship. But why? To make matters more baffling, the ship was fully provisioned with food and water. There was no sign of fire, no explosion, and no catastrophic event that would have justified leaving such a seaworthy vessel. The sails were ragged but functional, and the ship's hull was perfectly sound. The Mary Celeste was later sailed into Gibraltar by a prize crew from the Dei Gratia, but investigations into the mystery yielded no solid answers. The fate of Captain Briggs, his family, and the crew remains unknown to this day. From here, countless theories emerged. Some claimed it was piracy, but the lack of theft ruled that out. Others suggested a mutiny, but no evidence supported it. Some spoke of seaquakes, waterspouts, or sudden storms that might have panicked the crew. A few even ventured into the supernatural: curses, sea monsters, or alien abductions. Each theory only deepens the mystery rather than solving it. Now imagine yourself as one of those sailors on that cold December morning when the Dei Gratia crew stepped aboard. The air is salty and damp. The sails flap in the wind. The deck creaks beneath your boots. Everything seems eerily normal, except for the absence of human life. Every corner of the ship whispers questions. Did the crew willingly leave? Were they forced? Or were they pulled into something far darker than we can imagine? To truly understand this mystery, we need to look closer at the timeline, the personalities involved, and the theories that have kept this story alive for over a century. Let us begin with Captain Benjamin Briggs, a seasoned sailor known for his discipline and faith. Unlike many captains of the era, Briggs was considered deeply religious and a man of strong moral character. He was traveling with his wife, Sarah, and their young daughter, Sophia. It was rare for captains to bring their families on such voyages, which tells us that Briggs had full confidence in the safety of this journey. The crew of the Mary Celeste were handpicked by Briggs, men of experience and loyalty: First Mate Albert Richardson, Second Mate Andrew Gilling, Steward Edward Head, and 4 seamen: Volkert Lawrenson, Arian Martins, Gottlieb Goodshall, and Charles Anderson. These men were not strangers to the sea. They knew the dangers, the storms, and the hardships, and yet they accepted this voyage under a respected captain. Nothing in their pasts suggested mutiny or ill intent. The last entry in the captain's log, dated November 25th, placed the ship near the Azores. Nothing in the writing suggested distress or alarm, yet 10 days later, the Dei Gratia found the vessel drifting. What could have happened in those missing days? Some historians argue that the cargo of alcohol might have been the cause. Alcohol can expand and leak if barrels are poorly sealed, releasing fumes that could ignite. Perhaps the crew smelled fumes and, fearing an explosion, abandoned ship temporarily in the lifeboat, tethering it to the Mary Celeste with a rope. But if the rope broke, they could have been lost at sea while their ship sailed on. This is one of the more plausible theories, yet it still raises questions. Why would experienced sailors leave behind their provisions, clothes, and instruments for navigation? Why would they not return? Other theories point to natural phenomena. A sudden waterspout, essentially a tornado at sea, could have caused terror, making the crew think the ship was doomed. A seaquake could have damaged the cargo hold and released fumes or water. But once again, the Mary Celeste showed no damage consistent with such events. Some even believe foul play might have been involved. Captain Morehouse of the Dei Gratia knew Briggs personally. Was there a conspiracy between ships, or perhaps a secret plan gone wrong? The courts at Gibraltar examined this possibility, but no evidence tied Morehouse or his men to wrongdoing. In fact, the Dei Gratia crew only received a fraction of the salvage award they expected, as suspicion lingered over their discovery. As the story spread through newspapers, the legend of the Mary Celeste grew. Writers embellished details, adding ghosts, phantoms, and sinister plots. Even Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes, wrote a fictionalized version of the tale, fueling the myth that the ship was cursed or haunted. Yet when we strip away the myths, we are left with a haunting silence. A ship with her cargo intact, her crew's possessions untouched, and no one aboard. The ocean has always been a place of mystery, but few stories embody its secrets as deeply as this one. The Mary Celeste, drifting silently across the Atlantic, became a riddle without an answer, and every theory that emerged only deepened the enigma. In this part, we will examine those theories, weigh the evidence, and explore why this mystery refuses to die. The first and most widely accepted explanation is the alcohol fumes theory. The cargo of the Mary Celeste consisted of industrial alcohol, dangerous and volatile. Out of the 701 barrels, 9 were later found empty. Some investigators argue that the barrels had been made of porous red oak instead of white oak, which was less airtight. This could have allowed vapors to escape. Imagine the panic of the crew if they smelled fumes seeping through the hold. One spark could have caused an explosion. Out of desperation, Captain Briggs may have ordered everyone into the lifeboat temporarily, tethered to the ship, waiting for the air to clear. But if the rope snapped in rough seas, they would have been cast adrift, watching helplessly as the Mary Celeste sailed away without them. This theory is logical, but no one can prove it. The ship showed no sign of fire or scorching. And experienced sailors would have known better than to leave provisions and instruments behind. Then there is the waterspout theory. A waterspout, a swirling vortex of wind and water, could have terrified the crew. Perhaps they believed the ship was about to capsize, forcing them to abandon ship in panic. But again, there was no damage to the vessel that supported such an event. The deck was wet, yes, but that was common in the open sea. Others claim it was piracy. The seas of the 19th century were not free of raiders. But if pirates had attacked, why leave behind valuable cargo, belongings, and even money? Pirates rarely left treasures untouched. Mutiny has also been suggested. Perhaps the crew turned on Briggs. Yet mutiny usually leaves traces, violence, blood, missing valuables. On the Mary Celeste, there was nothing. Another chilling theory is that of poisoning. Some speculate that contaminated food or water might have driven the crew into madness or delirium, leading them to abandon the ship. But their supplies, when later examined, were sound. There are also supernatural explanations. Some insist the Mary Celeste was cursed. A vessel doomed from her troubled beginnings when she was first launched as the Amazon, the string of misfortunes before her final voyage, groundings, collisions, and deaths, only fueled this belief. To sailors, the sea was full of omens, and a cursed ship was a death sentence. Others whisper about sea monsters or creatures from the deep, though these belong more to legends than evidence. And then, of course, there are the most imaginative theories, alien abductions, time slips, or paranormal phenomena. While fascinating to storytellers, they remain beyond the realm of proof, yet they add to the enduring allure of the Mary Celeste. What makes this case so haunting is not just the disappearance of the crew, but the ordinary details left behind. Captain Briggs' cabin contained his wife's sewing machine and his daughter's toys. The crew's personal items were undisturbed, as though they had stepped out for a moment and never returned. The logbook offered no clue. The lifeboat was gone, but the mystery was what drove them into it. The investigation in Gibraltar dragged on, but concluded nothing definitive. No one was charged, and the salvage award was deliberately reduced, reflecting the court's lingering suspicion toward the Dei Gratia crew. Even the authorities could not fully trust the story. In later years, the Mary Celeste continued to sail under new owners, but she never shook her ghostly reputation. Sailors whispered of her cursed name, and many refused to serve aboard her. Finally, in 1885, her last owner deliberately wrecked her near Haiti in a failed insurance scam. The wreck was discovered, and with it, the Mary Celeste's physical story ended. But her legend was only beginning. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's fictional account, published in 1884, transformed the Mary Celeste into a true ghost ship in the public imagination. His tale included elements never found in the real case: blood on the decks, signs of violence, and supernatural hints. Readers were captivated, and the line between fact and fiction blurred. The real Mary Celeste was swallowed by myth. Even today, more than 150 years later, the mystery continues to inspire writers, filmmakers, and theorists. Why does the story endure? Because it touches something deep in human imagination. The sea, vast and merciless, holds secrets we cannot penetrate. When a ship sails away with a happy family and loyal crew, only to be found eerily empty, it feels like a story stolen from reality and placed into legend. Perhaps the truth is simple: a snapped rope, a panicked captain, an accident of fate. But perhaps it is something we cannot explain, something the ocean keeps to itself. The Mary Celeste is not just a case file in maritime history. It is a reminder that not all mysteries are meant to be solved, that some stories remain whispers of the deep. The sea has claimed countless ships, but rarely does it return them in such condition, with everything intact except the people. That is why the Mary Celeste remains the most famous ghost ship in history. As we close this story, remember that mysteries are not only about answers, but about the questions they leave behind. The Mary Celeste asks us to imagine the final moments of a crew that vanished into the unknown. And in doing so, it keeps their memory alive, not as names on a logbook, but as part of the eternal riddle of the sea.